Hi guys, the Tories are deeply dishonest. I know, that news must be shocking. But let me give you an example. Instead of holding back and saying, look, we don't know the details, so we can't comment, Conservatives like Alex Burghart will pretend to know what's in a deal and then attack that. Following news that the leader of the Tories plans to undo everything Keir Starmer achieves with the European Union post-Brexit, here we had shadow jack of all trades Alex Burghart try to attack something that he doesn't fully understand, and of course ramp up as much fear as possible. But will it work?
Alex Burghart, if there's a deal tomorrow that includes a youth mobility scheme, will you pledge to reverse it?
Well, it depends what the deal is, Trevor, and we still, even at this late stage, we don't know. The government can't tell us whether everyone will be able to come. They can't tell us how old a young person is. They can't tell us what benefits they would get. So I think when people hear about a youth mobility scheme, they think about an 18-year-old coming over and working in a bar. But actually, we may well be looking at a scheme which allows 30-year-olds to come over and claim access to the NHS on day one, to claim benefits.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So he doesn't know what's in the deal, but don't worry, he's going to speculate. And of course, the speculation is scaremongering. These young people are going to come over, they're going to access the NHS from day one, they're going to claim benefits. There's no evidence to back up that claim.
On day one, to bring their extended families. You're looking at a continent which currently has youth unemployment at about 15%. Some countries like Romania have youth unemployment about 26%. So there are obvious, very considerable disadvantages to the UK if this deal is done in the wrong way.
That's very interesting.
What disadvantages? There are massive shortages of workers in Britain. A whole range of sectors, and we generally just talk about the NHS and social care, but many sectors are struggling to find workers. Now, a youth mobility scheme would be tens of thousands likely. We're not talking about millions of people. So this would not fill the gap. But even if it did fill the gap, that would be a good thing. You would have young people coming in doing work that British people can't or don't want to do. But it's not just about working, it's also about studying. So this would help UK universities. Remember, the Tories and the Labour Party went along with this idea of where we're going to stop people from coming to universities. We're going to make it more difficult for people coming in from abroad to study in Britain, where they bring money with them. No, we don't want that. So a youth mobility scheme is not going to be taking people's jobs. Those jobs are open at the moment. And it's going to help universities who are already struggling because of policies from this guy's party.
Though, but it sounds like with the right conditions, you'd be up for it.
Well, maybe in some very, very limited circumstances, because what the public have been very clear about is that they don't want to see much higher immigration to this country.
It's not immigration. I really wish journalists and commentators would push back on this. It's a very simple lie. A youth mobility scheme is not migration, because migration is where somebody comes to live in the country for a long period of time. This youth mobility scheme is probably about 4 years. Maximum of 4 years. It's people coming over, working for a while and then leaving. Coming over, studying for a few years and then leaving. It's not migration. In the same way as asylum seekers are not migrants. But unfortunately, there's no pushback from the media on this very simple fact.
They want immigration to come down. And if you have an uncapped youth mobility scheme, you're going to have much higher immigration, aren't you? Yeah, so we had this spectacle earlier this week of Keir Starmer standing up and saying things that he clearly doesn't believe, right, about how immigration is sort of damaging the UK. This is a guy who all of his career has said what an untrammeled good immigration is and how immigration laws are racist, who suddenly changed his position on a sixpence. So you've got that at one end of the week. And at the other end of the week, he's talking about an EU youth mobility scheme which would increase immigration.
Let's stick with you. We don't do psychology on this show, so we can't look...
Can I have a job at Sky News? Honestly, because I would do a better job than Trevor Philips is doing. How is it possible that I'm able to say, wait a minute, stop. Why are you telling lies? Why are you misinforming the public about what a youth mobility scheme is? How is it possible that I can ask these questions And I'm not a journalist. I haven't graduated at a university in journalism. How is it possible that we can't find a single journalist, with the exception of maybe Victoria Derbyshire or a few others, we can't find a single journalist who will say, stop, what you're saying is absolute tripe. A youth mobility scheme is not immigration. Asylum seekers are not illegal migrants. This is an honest question. Why is it only me or people like me on YouTube who say these things?
We can't look into the Prime Minister's mind.
I'm pretty sure you do psychology.
In other lies, not on this show. But the point about this is, and it's interesting, that you, I think previously as a party, have said that anything that looks like a youth mobility scheme is first step on the slippery slope to free movement.
We are not,
you're not
in
absolutely
favour.
Against it.
We are not. One of our red lines was that we do not want to see a return to freedom of movement.
Once again, there's an opportunity to explain to him that this is not freedom of movement. The UK will not have freedom of movement. Because the UK is not a member of the European Union. It's not in the single market even.
Have an uncapped youth mobility scheme that has returned to freedom of movement for part of the population within the EU, and there are obvious consequences to that.
So you'd oppose it?
Yeah, well, we still don't know what the deal is, Trevor.
I don't know what the deal is, but I'm against it. I don't know what is contained within the deal, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend that I do, and I'm going to put out absolute rubbish about this deal to the public in order to scaremonger them into believing that it's about immigration, it's about Keir Starmer opening the borders, allowing all these people to come in. No mention of people coming from France, not in this interview, but you'll see it in other ones. No mention of people coming from Germany, Albania. They say, people will be coming in from Albania. People will be coming in from Eastern European countries. The Brexiteers have something really against Eastern Europeans for some reason. Now they've moved on to, we don't care about Europeans. It's about, people from Pakistan or people from India or people from the Middle East or whatever. We don't want those coming in. No mention of Americans coming. Like, the UK already has youth mobility schemes for other countries around the world. But all of a sudden, it's now a problem because it's the European Union. Once again, you need journalists to push back on this. If they don't push back, then this narrative becomes fossilized in people's minds. People think, youth mobility scheme equals freedom of movement. Freedom of movement means uncontrolled immigration. Uncontrolled immigration means asylum seekers in a hotel at the end of my street. It needs to be stopped at the beginning. Because if you don't, then you usher people like Nigel Farage into power. And then we ask the question, how the hell did Nigel Farage become Prime Minister? Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Sorry I went off on a few tangents here, but the things here that really upset me is the fact that the media don't push back on very simple lies. And politicians are able to just spew what they want and get away with it.